Hi, and welcome to another episode of All the Cards on the Table. This week, we are going to be discussing positive toxicity and the picture perfect social media phenomena. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. You're listening to All Cards on the Table podcast with Claire and Sylvia, a show that talks about how men and women aren't so different from each other. We just don't speak the same language. We will dissect every topic and put an end to miscommunication. So, get ready to get uncomfortable. Hi, and welcome back. For those that don't know me, I'm Claire Attio.
Hi, everyone. This is Sylvia Haida.
And today we're going to be looking at toxic positivity. And people are like, how can that work? It's a very interesting phenomena, and I don't want people not to have a positive attitude, not to do gratitude and mantras and all these things that really help to elevate our frequencies and our energies. But we also need to be aware of our ability to smother issues, problems, concerns that come up in our lives, that come up to be healed. And what we're actually seeing is it instead of sitting in it and doing the inner work, people are smothering it with the positivity. So that's what we want to really kind of unpack today for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's the idea of if I can just manifest that I'm going to be better, that my marriage is going to be better, that my relationship with my parents are going to be better, and you're going to sit there and meditate and trying to imagine a better life, and they're like, oh, but it's not working. It doesn't work. It's because that's not how it works. And I don't think, and you see it all the time in social media. You don't manifest, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, and be positive. And no one's really telling them exactly how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really big into mindful meditating and being mindfulness and everything. And part of that is sitting with the ugly as well, and just being like, oh, okay, let me sit through this one and why I did this and where's the lesson, and so I can grow. And I'm not saying, okay, that was a bad thing and I'm going to manifest now a better life, because it's like I'm gonna wish for something but I'm not gonna deal with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's never gonna it doesn't
It's
work.
interesting, isn't it? Because manifestation, people only look again at the positive. We manifest through our thoughts,
Yes.
through our vibrations. And if we're not, as you said, sitting in the ugliness sometimes, we don't want to sit there forever, but we do need to sit there and unpack it and do the work that is needed to heal that. Otherwise, it's just going to keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our thoughts that created it in the first place. And if we don't actually take the time to go, okay, how did I create this? How did I manifest this? You're just going to keep manifesting it, and you're just going to keep smothering it, and it's like rubbish bags building up on the inside, and they're just going to build and build and build until that is all you're full of. Even though you are doing daily mantras, you are doing positivity, you are doing mindfulness. Well, you're not actually doing the mindfulness. And I think that's the key. You're not doing mindfulness correctly if you're not doing that work.
Exactly. And I saw a post the other day on, I can't remember which social media, and this lady is talking about the fact that manifestation doesn't work, and she's done it all. She was talking about that book, The Secret. I think it was back in the 90s or late 2000s, something like that.
80s, wasn't it?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So if if I remember correctly, it was something, it's still the law of attraction. And you've it's been such a multi-million dollar phenomenon that people are trying to go in because it sells, and look at me, and I'm going to manifest this and wealth and this and that. And the perfect marriage, the perfect job. And I was trying to teach my daughter the other day something with along the lines of that. And I said, listen, you're not going to get that if you're just going to sit there and manifest that's what you want, because there's something that's stopping you. There's a blockage there, and you need to sit with that and find out what that is. Once you've reached that, then your vibration will be bigger and you will be able to call what it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and she was like, oh no, but it is and that. So it's so funny because she actually did that. She she went into mindful meditation, did a mindful meditation. She sat and she goes, I think it's social media. That's what I feel. And so she deleted all her social media accounts. She doesn't have anything. And this week she was like, Mom, you're right. Because the things I have been wanting, it was being blocked by this social media because I was taking in so much. I was looking at other girls, how they were having fun with their friends. I was looking how they were doing really well in school, and just looking and living through them. And I was like, why can't I have that?
Mm-hmm.
So she's projecting, envy and fear. And then we're like, I want that. It's just like, I'm going to sit here and manifest that. I'm like, you can't, because there's something blocking you. You have to take that away, sit with it, find out what it is, and deal with it. Mm-hmm. And she did. And then this week she's like, it was so strange. Everyone came and said hello. People were happy. And I walked in and they invited me to sit with them. And then I met a new friend. And then that boy who was constantly bothering me, he was actually really nice this week. She was like, I think maybe I was just projecting the enviness. And so that's what I was getting. People were just staying away.
Well, it reflects back.
So she learned a lesson there. And I see that constantly when I thought about that post that I saw a few months or a year, I can't remember, maybe it was last year probably, about how it's all fake, manifest doesn't work. And I realized, well, I thought about it and I said, it's because you weren't actually properly educated on how to manifest something. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about positive things. You have to deal first with everything that's holding you back so that you can vibrate to a bigger.
And you have to be standing in your truth. You have to be standing in your authenticity. And that can only be achieved by visiting all your beliefs, values, and programs, because many of them don't even belong to us. You think of we learn from our parents. So we're building programs from what they believe to be their truths and their values. That doesn't necessarily mean it's ours, but we take them in, we learn from them, we replicate them. That's how we grow and develop. And then we go into the education system, and everything that they want us to learn, believe, and value. Because let's be honest, the education system is there to build a workforce. It's the only reason it's there. It's to build a workforce. And so we've got all those beliefs and values. And it's only through sitting down, taking the time and going, okay, who am I? What resonates? What brings me joy? What has me radiating from a vibration of love? What makes me happy? And it's only when you actually sit and you work through every single aspect of your life. So, because what you want in relationships is going to be, just relationships. The relationships you want your family will be different from the relationships that you want from your partner, will be different from the relationship that you want from your children, will be different from the relationships that you want from friendships. And that's just relationships. And we've got all these different aspects of life. And so there's a lot of work there to be done. And without terrifying anybody, it can be done quite quickly, but it has to be constant. There has to be a commitment to yourself to go, okay, I really want to discover who I am, what I am, and what potential is out there for me. And it is potential. I know that's a very coachy word to say, and a lot of people, and it's been overused, and people are, yeah, step into your full potential. And I've done it as well, because that is what we're doing. Again, it has been overused, and there's been a lot of promises that have not been kept, or either by the person that's actually doing the program, or by the people that's taken the program, because they haven't invested fully. They haven't understood the amount of investment that they need to put in. And I think that needs to be recognized as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's once we actually really step into that authenticity and step into our personal truth, that is when we start to expand energetically, expand spiritually. And that's when, as you said, like you did with your daughter, as soon as she got off of social media and she stopped comparing herself to other people, and she started being true to herself, she was able to expand in her own energy. And because she did that, she wasn't carrying these more negative, heavy vibrations. And I think that's what gets missed when we talk about the toxicity of positivity. It's a tongue twister. Is the learning to expand into your own energy, that being true to yourself rather than what other people want, because that's a massive thing. And social media is, it pits women against women, it pits men against men, it pits families against families. It's just, and everybody with this picture perfect life and all these filters, just because they have a little blemish on their skin, ooh, what a terribly ugly person. I mean, it's so superficial, and manifestation has been taken as a superficial thing. And I think that's what we're saying here. It is not superficial. Has huge amounts of depth that we're only just beginning to discover.
Exactly. And actually, when you were talking about that, sometimes, like you said, okay, your full potential, like you said, maybe we do have to go back to the original and the classics of finding what is our true potential. Because I think we believe our potential is what we see through social media. So we think we could achieve that. And we're comparing ourselves to that other person. But you don't know what that person is behind that behind the social media. I mean, they could be sitting down taking pictures, and now with everything, the technology that is so advanced, I mean, they could be fooling you so easily. And actually, what's happening in France right now, where they're passing the law that you have to admit that you're using filters or everything, and there are people who are having a hard time dealing with that, because now they have to tell the world that they're not perfect. But we already know that, and most of us believe that, and we're getting to a point where it's quite dangerous, because we're not going to be able to tell what's real and what's not in a couple of years based on technology. And that's going to be a problem. So we're going to live in this world where we're trying to manifest this life, but that energy that you're bringing, and I don't think what people are realizing, let's say that you have this family that you admire, and they're traveling, they're together, they're doing everything, and energy is energy. You want that, you see that in a picture, and you want to bring that into your family, but you don't really see the whole picture of what's reality, that it's just a picture and it's just for show. So you're bringing that energy, and that energy could actually be a bad energy, because there might be fighting, there might be violence, there might be all of this, and you are welcoming that to your life. And then you're going, I don't understand what's happening. Why am I having such a hard time? It's because when you manifest it out, which actually does work,
you manifested all the energy that went with
everything that goes with it, but you weren't aware of it, because you were sold on this idea of this picture perfect family, this picture perfect job, picture perfect person. She has it all, he has it all, and they're not telling you their whole entire world, and you are manifesting exactly their life. And so when you're wondering why things are going badly, because you brought it all in. When you bring somebody else's idea of their life, you
You
bring in their
invite
energy,
every
everything.
aspect of their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I learned that. I mean, and you can tell, I think, because when you see someone that you admire, let's say you have a family that you truly admire, like, oh my God, they're always doing this, they're together, they're having dinners, and I really want that for my family. They're so united, but they're only selling you from the outside, right? And you walk away every time feeling worse about yourself. I want you to understand one thing, and that is that's because there is an energy that's been hidden that you are bringing with you that they're not telling you. And I've learned this the hard way because that happened to me. And when I realized that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Then I would stop, not admiring, but I'd stop like wanting that, you know, and I actually stopped even hanging out with these people. My life started to be more calm. However, there are those people that really do have that amazing life, and you're going to realize how easy it is. And you're just like, oh, I really like that. And that's because that energy is good. They're not hiding, they're being real. And you will know that because you will feel it inside. You either feel drained and like, oh my God, we have a horrible family, I can't believe it. Or I really want to hang out with them again. You know, that they're pretty cool, right? So even then, you will be able to tell who's hiding and who's not, who's real and who's not, and projecting this fakeness that, you know, a lot of people hide. And I think most of us are pretty good about having that sense when we're like, you know, there's just something about that person. There's just, I don't know what it is. You know, there's something. And when you see a picture, it's filtered, and then there's like a wall that you really can't tell that there's that energy there because it's like blocked because of the technology, but it's there.
Yeah, I think a point that I would really like to get across is when you're looking at I mean, we all look at things. I mean, it's part of our nature. We all kind of aspire. We see something, oh wow, that is, or we see somebody, or we're in somebody's energy, and we're like, oh wow. There is a massive difference between wanting to be that person and wanting to be like. So, and I think this is where, and I have to say it, I'm sorry, it's a real American culture. For me, it started with the whole plastic surgery. It's like they all had to have the same nose, and they had to have the same lips, and they had to have the same cheekbones, and they had to have I mean, it's just, what is going on? It was like little replica dollies. And I think it's kind of flowed out from there to thinking that has to be in every aspect of life. Whereas it's much more healthier to look at somebody and go, wow, I really admire that. But admire the attribute, not the whole person. Because as you said, if you admire the whole person, you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what they've gone through to get there, for a start. Even if it, you know, even if it's not just a filtered picture perfect, it is a real picture perfect. You have no idea what it took them to get there. You have no idea the lessons, the trauma, because life has ebbs and flows. And I think this is another aspect, is the unwillingness to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
The unwillingness to be realistic and just allow the flow. And that is a massive, everybody wants to just be on the ebb. they just want to be on that. They want to be riding that wave continuously, but that wave crashes.
Yeah.
Every single wave crashes, but it's like, oh no, blinkers on, don't want to see that part, don't want to have anything to do with that part. And this is where a lot of the problems, and it's causing, on a serious note, it's causing a huge amount of mental health, a huge amount of people feeling inadequate, not feeling worthy, not feeling of any value. It's having a massive effect on the younger generations, because they're all sat there on their phones, all looking at each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is all false 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And then they start building these programs about they're not good enough, they don't look pretty enough, their nose is wonky, their lips are wonky, their boobs aren't big enough, the bum's not big enough,
Mm-hmm.
they're not tall enough, they don't earn enough money. It's such a huge amount of pressure. And then, as you said, they're like, oh, well, I have to manifest all these things because I want to be like them. And then they
Yeah.
start the whole manifestation program. But
And they don't realize, like,
they're
you
bringing
can't.
more
Exactly.
negativity into their
Yeah.
life.
The thing is, you're not just going to get it just like that. And if that person, like you said, you don't know what it took to get there, and they're like, oh, you want that, okay, then you're gonna go through the same process. And they're like, I didn't like it. You can't just snap your fingers and be like, three wishes of make a wish of, I'm gonna have this life, and it's not a genie in a bottle. You have to do the work. You have to accept who you are, and be ready to look in the mirror and see what you like, and and just be there for you, I think, and start to live for you. And I think that's what a lot of people are so afraid of, what other people are going to think of them. And I always tell my daughter this, and sometimes I feel bad, because I was like, oh, she doesn't understand it. I was like, I was like, no one really cares. Okay, they're so into themselves, they're not going to notice you. They might say something, and then it's going to go right out their head. They really don't care, because we're living in a life of me, myself, and I, not as a we anymore. So you're sitting here looking at yourself and going, I'm dreading the way I look, my hair doesn't look nice, this clothes doesn't fit, I'm not popular. And you're gonna go into your school and no one's gonna even notice. So I would just say, and I told her, do yourself a test. Put on something that's just way out there, like an elephant, in the room, and see how many people notice it.
They won't at that age,
And they didn't,
because they're so self-conscious. And I think that's the trauma. That's the trauma of being a teenager,
yeah,
isn't it?
it
Because you're
is.
so hung up, and you think, everybody's looking at me. I remember it, and we didn't have a quarter of the pressures that they've got now. But I can remember going through school with my head down, constantly thinking, God, please don't look at me, please don't ask me anything, please don't. I just wanted to be invisible.
Yeah.
It isn't until you get older that you realize that absolutely everybody else there is also wanting to be invisible.
Yeah. And I think if we all look at it that way, that no one really is looking at us, you can set yourself free in a sense that way. And I think for our generation, that also helped, knowing that we didn't live with social media, and it's not going to be our most embarrassing moments, or the way we look, not going to capture forever. And I think now whatever you do, it is captured forever, and it can be fixed and photoshopped to make it even worse. And that's quite scary, and I understand that part. But that's exactly what I feel it's wrong, that we are trying to be so positive. Like you said, it's this toxicity of, let's manifest, and let's be good in everything, and let's be great, and I have achieved this, and I've achieved that, and all of this. And you're not understanding what really goes into all of that. And that maybe that's true for that person, and maybe that was their path, but it's not yours, and yours is different. And we have to stop comparing ourselves to others, and trying to feel like I need to I'm not good enough because I don't have what that person has, because I don't have the cars and the house or the family. I'm not vacationing in these exotic places. I must be doing something wrong. I must be stupid. What am I doing wrong? Why is it all these people have all this money and I'm not doing it? What am I doing? And you need to stop yourself there and tell yourself, you know what? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm me and I'm walking in my own path. I don't even know if that's real or not.
Mhm.
They could just be selling you in a product. I mean, we used to have it in the 90s, like get rich, I'm gonna make you rich, or those sell pictures, like I'm gonna pitch you this, I'm gonna sell you on this dream. And we knew, I was like, oh, this is such a scam. But we knew that. But it's like people have forgotten that
Yeah.
they're selling you on this idea,
Well,
that car salesman idea that this is the life that you want, and if you don't have it, you're not good enough.
I think I think the problem is that is the key. You're not good enough. And I think this is what I say, that the mental health, it's a pandemic. I mean, I'm sorry, everybody went over COVID. And it was like, oh, isn't this dreadful? Nobody's talking about the real pandemic that's going on here, is the manipulation, the commercial manipulation, the governmental manipulations
Mm-hmm.
over how we are living our lives. I'm really pleased that France has done that. I'm really pleased, because that will actually that will make a lot of people think
Mm-hmm.
before they and I'd like to see that rolled out globally, that if there's filters in place, then especially when it comes to, I mean, if there's filters in place when it's a landscape scene or something like that, I don't think it's a major issue. But when it comes to people, I mean, you only
Yeah.
have to look at cosmetics. I mean, and I know humanity, we've always, men and women, have all used cosmetics. We've tried to improve our looks, and there's been fashion, but I mean, they actually have put prosthesis. I mean, God forbid. I mean,
Yeah.
I would hate to be young now, because without being crude, you could go to bed with someone one night and then you'd wake up the next morning and think, who the is that? Because it'd be a completely different person, because they're taking all these different prostheses off. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it brings a new term, coyote ugly, right? It just revamps to a whole new level. Oh my gosh, she's coyote ugly, that whole scene. But oh my God, yes. And I it's so fun when you were saying that, I was like, that is so true. So I was actually going to meet with a client, and I'm looking at the profile and everything, and her social media account, see what she has. And when we finally met in person, and I was just like, wait a second, that's a whole different person. Whole different person. So I already knew I had a lot to work with, because
Mm-hmm.
but I was just, my first thing was like, okay, we need to sit down and talk, because that is not who you are.
Mm. Yeah.
There was so much, and of course you can see the filters, but this is what I'm saying. They've gotten so good, technology, that you really don't know who you're talking, and I mean, you hear it all the time. I've been catfish, I've been doing this, and we're bringing new vocabulary to our language, because there's so many fakeness. We're being sold so much of an idea that we have to buy into, that idea of picture
Mm-hmm.
perfect, that we're becoming so, I would say, distrustful of the, we're not, yeah, we're we're coming with a sense of distrust already into a relationship, into meeting, even to meet someone for work, or meeting someone for, when you're hiring someone
Mm-hmm.
for a job, like your handyman person, you're just going like, you don't know what you're going to get anymore.
And I think it's
Eh,
creating fragmentation as well. It's creating fragmentation within society, but it's creating fragmentation within ourselves, because if we're one person on this account and another person on this account and another, and then we're this person in work and we're this person with our friends and we're this person, and this is why it is so important to just put the brakes on everything. I'm not saying don't use filters. I'm not saying, but just know yourself. Get to know yourself and bring all those aspects back in and go, okay, which do I like? Which do I want to improve? Which do I learn to accept? And that's the bit nobody wants to do. Which bits do I learn to accept?
Yeah, that's the hard one.
Because we've been taught money can get you anything. And I'm sorry, this is I have absolutely no issues with money or abundance. No. But it's being used, that abundance is being used in quite a destructive way. And that's what we need to open our eyes to and become aware of. And the other thing when you were talking is, if we're setting ourselves all these expectations and we're struggling, and this is the thing that people need to take on board, okay, especially when you're coming into your late 20s, early 30s, and you're thinking about going into that committed relationship. If we have all these expectations that we are struggling to keep on top of, what precedents are we setting for the next generation?
Exactly.
Because with each generation comes more expectations.
Yes.
And I think we just need to put the brakes on here. We need to just put the brakes on and really look at what we're doing to ourselves, what humanity, and we can lay the blame wherever we want. We could say, oh, it's technology, oh, it's governments, oh, it's the commercial. We're allowing, they can try all that, but we're actually the ones buying into it. So the responsibility is with us.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's starting so young now, like the expectations sometimes that I see with kids, like, oh, you have to have the best school, the best kindergarten, the best play date. We're in line for this school, and they have to read by the time they're 2, and you're going to drain them out because you're trying to keep up with this idea that you saw on social media, and you want to be just like that. And you're going to see, like, why my son's not smart enough. I think, was it a couple of years ago, they were selling like I'm hooked on phonics or something like that, about kids learning how to read at really early age.
Yeah.
And when are they going to be allowed to be just kids? When are they going to be allowed just to not, because kids learn constantly, and part of that learning is to make mistakes, to fall down, to play, to just be kids. They're going to learn how to read and write and all this stuff. It's all going to come with it later in years. But they're between the ages of toddler years to maybe about 6 or 7 years, they shouldn't be pushed to achieve academically. I feel like I cringe every time I see that, like, oh, my son just made the honor roll and he's getting straight A's in school, and I'm like, they're 5, and we're sit down and we're gonna read and we're gonna do, and I'm thinking, like, no, I mean, when are they going to be children? This is why we're having so much depression in our youth, is because the amount of pressure. They're being pressured by their parents, they're being pressured by society, in school, by their peers, and by the time they even reach college, they're so drained, so critical of themselves, and they're constantly blaming themselves that they're not good enough, and they just give up. And unfortunately, we have been seeing high numbers now of kids hurting themselves because of this amount of pressure, because we want to stay positive, like, you can do it, I know you can, just reach for the stars, you're able to do whatever you want. And yes, they can if you tell them how to do it and what goes along with it
Yeah.
and the struggles that go with it.
But
You absolutely can.
this is a key. And it brings up the term when you were talking then, the term flaky. Oh, they're flaky. The Manelli are flaky. And it drives me nuts because that is not who they are. Okay, that might be the actions that they're displaying, but that's not who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only their actions, those actions that they're displaying only exist because of what we as adults have done to them and the expectations that we've put on them, the
Mm-hmm.
being overzealous that they have all the wonderful things in the world,
Yeah.
because we wanted to feel good about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a little bit tired about our generation being really down on young people, because if they do not have, because there is, as you said, there's a massive issue with mental health. If they do
Mm-hmm.
not have the mental strength to cope with life, that is not their fault. That's our fault. That's because
Mm-hmm.
we have pampered and pooched and put expectations on and not given them responsibility and not taught them how to take accountability, not helped them to stand independently on their own 2 feet.
Or empathy. I mean, we've actually not shown any empathy because when they fall down, like, get up, it's all okay, you're fine. And I always wonder, could you imagine if we talk to each other as adults the way we talk to children? Don't cry now, it's not that big of a deal. We wouldn't. But why do we think that it's okay to talk to children like that? You know, they're learning. This is what they are learning. So we're setting them up for failure, that we're setting them to be so self-critical. And then we push this, you gotta be great, smiles, you have to be happy, you know, you want this, oh no, no crying, no, you're not allowed to be angry. I mean, we as adults get angry and we're frustrated and we have all these emotions, you know, and why do we think that a baby crying and having a tantrum is not okay? Obviously they're having a hard time, and we forgot to be empathetic of their feelings, as if they don't have any. And I noticed that because sometimes when I see a little one crying, it's actually my son that goes, oh, those kids. And I'm like, excuse me, you were like that too. And if anything, let's find out what's happening, because they're obviously having a hard time. So be a little bit more empathetic and be like, oh, what's happening? And instead of being gentle as adults towards the mother that she's going through, or the father, and I feel it's the mother, because you know, when it's a man, we're constantly going to help them because we assume they don't know what they're doing. But if it's a woman or the mom, we're so critical of her, like, you don't know what you're doing.
Those expectations again.
Those expectations. And she
that's
is struggling and she's embarrassed and she's like, oh my God, she's judging herself. I'm not good enough as a parent. Oh my God, what did I do wrong? This kid is not behaving. Instead of saying, okay, he's having a hard time, let me get down to my child's level and find out what's happening. You know, and I see that a lot when you go to the supermarkets, and you know, children, before they go in, you can be like, hey, I need you to understand, we're going to go and buy something, and these are the things. And if you actually let that child do the shopping for you, meaning, okay, can you help me find the flour? Can you help me find the milk and the cereal? They're already participating because they want to do everything we're doing. So part of that tantrum is also that they didn't get to do what they wanted, or mimic what you were doing. So for them, it would be a chocolate because that's what they want, or a piece of candy. For us, was milk. So they want to mimic what we're doing, but then we're punishing them. It's like, no, you can't do that because X, Y, and Z. But if we did that to a child or to an adult, could you imagine? We're going to a store and you're not going to get this and you're not going to do that and you're not going to have a tantrum. And I'm like,
well, your children are obviously they're not young anymore, but they're still young. But I know, and it'd be interesting to see where you are. I know Georgina, when she was young, even from the age of 4 and 5, had I gave her responsibilities around the house,
Mm-hmm.
even if it was just making sure that all the shoes were on the shoe rack, something, but she had responsibility. I wasn't, a lot of that was to do with the fact that I was a single mum, so I needed the help.
Mm-hmm.
And that is interesting, because would I have been that, would I've actually set those boundaries and those perimeters had I not been? I can't honestly answer. I'll be truthful, but I think this is a lot of what I see now is that parents are not giving their children responsibility within the home, and yet when they get to their teenage years, they expect them to know how to take responsibility, but they've had no formative years teaching them what responsibility was.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to know. I know you do give your kids, but how many of the other families around you do?
Actually, no, it was so funny. My son, I think at the time was, I want to say 7, no, 8. He's 11 now. He goes, Mom, do you know that my friends ask me why I have chores because they don't have any, and why do I have to go do these things after school before I can play? Why do I have to do that, but they don't? And I'm like, different household, different rules. I
Yeah.
can't say for that. And one of the parents actually said that, I've never let them, I do everything for them. And by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted. I just want to go to sleep. And, but I think I'm going to start giving them just little jobs here and there. And I'm like, listen, kids, even from the toddler years, they can have responsibilities. My kids, since they were, like you said, toddlers, it was pick up your toys and put them in their place. That was it. And as they got older, it's like, make sure every bathroom has paper rolls. Can you make sure that you have your bed is made? Once they were old enough to make your bed, put your clothes in the laundry, bring me your clothes. Now they're at age where they're doing laundry, they're cooking, they're doing a lot of the things, to the point where I tell them, this is a team effort. We all have to work together to run this house. It's not just me, and it's not just that dad and everyone. If you see that maybe, there's a lot of crumbs, go grab the vacuum and vacuum. If you see that there are dishes around the house, go grab them and put them in the dishwasher. And they do that without thinking now. It's just part of what they do. But
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I'd really like to know that mother that you said that her kids don't do any chores, and and she's exhausted. And this is where we need to change the mindset. This is where you need to use and be mindful of, because she's setting a precedent for her children when they're adults. Does she really want her children to be that exhausted and some?
Exactly. Yeah, I know that she's changed that since then.
Yeah,
because I was like, absolutely, they can do that. You don't have to do everything for them. And they were very they weren't allowed to do a lot of things. They were very, like, I don't want to say helicopter parents, but they were very on top of them. Like, they saw them like they are too little to do things for themselves. Like, absolutely not. They're not. One of my, at that time, my son's chore was to go around and see if there was any dog poop around the garden, and he had to pick it up. and
mother.
And he didn't mind it. And I don't go, you're gonna do this and this. I would set out a list of chores, and they were allowed to pick what they wanted to do according to their age, of course.
Yeah.
And he picked that. He's like, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
So his friend's like, ew, you're picking up dog poop. And it's like, yeah, like, okay, it's not a big deal, because there's usually only 1 or 2 and I get out of here faster. So he thought, how fast am I going to take longer to put the dishes away, or am I going to take longer to, water the plants? And so he's like, no, because I know that there's only going to be maybe 1, if any, poop, and then I'm out of here. So he's thinking of time consuming.
And that brings in evaluation skills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all these things is seriously lacking because we are wanting to create this perfect world for ourselves and kids. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, we're not teaching the basic aspects which are needed to actually get through life.
And not to mention, like you said, the responsibilities of that they are going to do this in their life, in their own lives later. So you have to make them almost like automatic little robots to clean, to fix, to put away things. So it's just dreaded in their brain that this is what they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes away half of the work because they're already programmed to clean their house, to fix themselves, to save money, to do their chores, to do this. And so now they can focus on other things like who am I as a
Mm-hmm.
person? Because those
Mm-hmm.
little tiny things that we all have to do anyways, already it's a second nature to us. It's
Yeah.
kind of like when you drive, sometimes you just drive and don't know how you got there, unfortunately, I hope not. But your automatic system just takes over and you're doing fine. It's no brainer. You just do it. But they have to learn, and the younger that you teach them, it's better. You're helping them. You're actually doing a disservice if you're not doing that for them.
Yeah.
And I know some people would see that. I know when I was told, like, oh my goodness, they're doing that. And my kids don't do nothing. And I said, well, it's really good for them.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to sit there and judge their parenting um, methods or anything. I just said, this is what works for our family because like you say you were a single mom, but my husband works all the time and he's gone away. So I'm just like a
Yeah.
single mom. I can't run this household by myself. I would be so exhausted by the end of the day. So I would always have them help me. And that really was a helping for them because now they're able to do things their own. They're self-sustained. If I go for a whole day, I'm like not worried. Okay, they know how to make their beds. They know how to cook for themselves. I mean, sometimes my younger son's like, "Hey, I'm going to make breakfast for everyone today. I'm done with my chores. I'm done with my homework. I don't have to be in top of them to tell
No.
them that they need to do this
Well, because they're
because
self-regulating, and that's what you've taught them by giving them things to do, by giving them responsibility and making them hold themselves accountable, or obviously when they're little, holding them accountable. And that's,
mm-hmm,
these are the roles of parents. But of course, if we're looking to social media and these picture perfect lives and all these things that everybody has got, because it is things, let's be honest,
mm-hmm,
it's things. All our focus is going to be there, and our focus is not. And this is why that kind of positivity is very toxic. Pull it back, bring it home. What are your beliefs? What are your values? Who are you? Wrapping up, really take the time to get to know yourself now, and not to think, oh well, it's wrong for me to like that, it's right for me to like that. No, be honest with yourselves.
yeah, be
You're
authentic.
all Life only works when we're being honest, when we're being authentic. That
Mm-hmm,
is when it flows. That is when manifestation, because you ask for something then when you know what it is you truly like and what you truly want, and the universe will go, yeah, that is
mm-hmm,
right for them. Because you'll be putting out that vibration, that particular vibration for that particular thing, because it is aligned to you. And so it
yeah.
will then come to you. And and stop with the everything's perfect in my garden,
Mm-hmm,
because even with the most beautiful of gardens, weeds still grow.
mm-hmm, absolutely. I think I just want to end one thing as well with the positive toxicity here is praising our children. Oh, not saying don't do it, but when you praise them, you're praising a behavior and they're going to do whatever it takes to get that praise. And that's where it leads to a lot of self doubt because they feel they're only loved when they do something good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts. So praise the behavior and how they got there. because then they know that it was those steps that made that
and not
moment
the
great.
actual achievement.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so please be aware of like, oh, you did so great. That was wonderful. Instead, do something. Oh, can you show me how you did that? That was really wonderful. I really like how you got there. Explain it to me. And then they will see that it was their actions and not just, I'm only good because,
I won.
I won.
I got top marks.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
now we can show it off on social media and have, so start there. Start with praising how they got there and sit with the ugly as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's brilliant. That's a beautiful place to leave that. So that is bye-bye from me.
And me. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and please leave a review, as it helps us grow and bridge the gap between the sexes. If you have any topics you would like us to cover, shoot us an email. Until next time, go out and practice putting all your cards on the table with no judgment, expectations, and fear.